All right, so this is the Couch Punters podcast, and we're going to be discussing the most contentious issue I've ever seen come out of football, probably in my lifetime. The European Super League that has been proposed and basically set up by the top 12, well, 12 of the top clubs in Europe. It's obviously the top six from England, so City, United, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, Spurs, and then the three top Spanish clubs: Atletico Madrid, Real Madrid, Barcelona. Three top Italian clubs: Inter, AC Milan, and Juventus. And apparently, three more are going to be involved. And then there'll be five others coming too because they want to make it 20. So, basically, like to start off, just to explain the format of how this would take place if it was to happen. The 15 founders, so all the clubs I named there, and three more that haven't been announced yet, are untouchable, so they can't be relegated. And then the other five are to vary season to season based on their domestic achievements. So, like if Leicester have a great season, or if Napoli have a great season, they might be able to get in. If the way it's going to play out will be there'll be two groups of 10, each play home and away, with the top three qualifying to the quarterfinals. The fourth and fifth place teams in each group have a playoff then, to qualify for the final quarterfinal spots. Then from the quarterfinals onwards, it's two legs for the quarters, two legs for the semis, and then one leg in neutral ground in May in the final. So it's similar to the Champions League as soon as it gets to the quarters. One thing which obviously all this is based around how to make the most money. One thing that this does have compared to the Champions League, the new Champions League format was due to be announced today when we're recording, the 19th of April, which is a Monday, by UEFA. And that was going to have 10 group games. But with this new format where the group stages has 10 teams, you're guaranteeing 18 games. So it's basically just more money, more TV rights, more broadcast money. So the games, what they've proposed is that the games are all midweek so that clubs can continue their domestic games. So yeah, what do you think of that in comparison to just in terms of the format first of all, and we'll get into the millions of other things after. Just in terms of the format, what do you think of that in comparison to the current Champions League that we have, where it's six group games, last 16, then on?
Well, I mean, at the start of the year, you saw there was a big complaint from the managers of the top six teams or the big six in England that were playing in European competitions, as well as a few other teams that were playing European competition. That they wanted 5 substitutions in the Premier League for player well-being. You know, that they were playing too many games too close together, which was a fair complaint at the time. You know, they were playing too many, and you saw like loads of people getting injured. You saw loads of Liverpool players getting injured. City players were getting injured just because of how many games they're playing. And I mean, if you bring in a European league, forget about money and all that stuff for a few seconds. Just on like, you know, from a player's point of view, that's basically the way it looks like it's going to be formatted is that it's basically 2 games a week for them at a high standard. If they obviously, the domestic leagues have come out and said that they won't get to play like that. That's not going to happen. But with the way they want to play, this whole thing, it would mean that it would be basically 2 high quality games a week. Obviously, which is more than the Champions League, because the Champions League is like spread out and stuff like that with group stage matches and all. And it just doesn't make any sense in any way that, you know, at the start of the season, they were giving out about too many games. At the end of the season, they want more games. Oh, I don't know.
I know. I agree as well because like I know as much as like I'd love to watch 18 games in a group stage rather than six, and when especially when like let's say like for instance if you're Chelsea, you might have one top team in your group like an Atletico or a Barcelona or whatever, but then the other two teams are like Olympiacos and like Slavia Prague or something like they're not really high quality games, whereas this guarantees 18 games per club against top opposition that like broadcasters are going to pay serious money. But anyway, we'll get into more stuff later about the morals and ethics because that is a whole different conversation.
Yeah, that's the big picture.
in terms of the statement, I'm not going to read out the statement, but I assume most people have. If you haven't, just go and read it. But I'm just going to break it down into a few things that I just thought were shocking. Like they said in the statement. First, first thing I thought was that they said, this is quote the best outcomes for football as a whole. That's what they said. This was. It's clearly not. It's only good for the founding clubs financially because how is it, if you're talking about football as a whole, how is this good for Leicester or Crystal Palace or Morecambe or Luton Town? How are they benefiting from this? This is literally just an absolute financial grab. Um, then another part, another thing that really annoyed me in the statement was that they almost used the pandemic as an excuse as to why this is a good decision. So they said the pandemic has accelerated the instability in the existing European football economic model. I think basically what they mean here is the pandemic's just a big mask. They're masking it to make an excuse. Basically, what they're saying is they aren't getting enough money, um, and they think that they're basically gifting clubs like, for instance, just in the Premier League, Crystal Palace, um, Wolves, Sheffield. For instance, okay, if you're looking for at Chelsea, Chelsea are thinking the only reason anyone's watching this game is to watch us. No one cares about Crystal Palace, Wolves, etc. So if we just play Barcelona and we play Atletico Madrid and we play Juventus every week, then we're gaining financially. We're not just being like we're not. We're basically like giving money to the clubs who don't deserve it. We're the ones who can generate revenue, not Crystal Palace. So I'm just using them as an example. So they're basically just saying that these clubs aren't as relevant or as elite or as the reason they're getting this massive TV money is because of the top six. So we basically don't feel like we're getting enough money that as we should be entitled to.
I
And
mean,
I think it's
like
sorry, go on.
this is one of the biggest things that probably will ever happen in football on like the basis of like elitism. Like these clubs really do think in their head they're like, well, this is all about us. It's all about me because we are the elite. Like this thing of the big six is the biggest load of rubbish that has ever been said ever. Like Arsenal are in like 11th or 10th or something like that. Like they're
Like
not a
I was saying this over the last 5 years, Leicester are more successful than Arsenal. Arsenal have two or three FA Cups, but Leicester have a league in the last 5 years, and they've
yeah.
finished above Arsenal almost every season. Like they are more elite than Arsenal right now.
Yeah, I mean, like, what makes this? What I don't understand. I know this is a bit of a bit to the side, but what makes the big six? Because like you have Arsenal who haven't been successful in like what 10 years or something like that when they were back.
Exactly.
Like, how long has it been since Arsenal have even been in Champions League?
Like there was a few seasons where like there genuinely was a top six, and like Arsenal, let's say, would come sixth, and the drop between sixth and seventh would literally be 15 or 20 points. But that's not the case anymore. Arsenal haven't like the top six hasn't been the top six in two or three seasons now.
Yeah, and not just picking on
Like
Arsenal. Like, why are Spurs in it? What have Spurs done? Like, yeah, okay, they
yeah,
played in Champions Leagues, they played in Champions League final, they played in one Champions League final. Like, but what they haven't won anything. So it's not like
I
oh,
know.
yeah, a big six is based on history because then you can also bring in Man City. Yeah, they are definitely in the top six clubs in England at the moment. But like, what was it like 15 years ago, 20 years? Well, more than that. It's probably like 20 between 20 and 25 years ago. They were in like League One. So like, it's nothing to do. So what makes Big Six like it's currently not on current form. It's not in
Yeah.
history. It's literally just the richest six clubs in England.
Yeah, it's the richest and the most watched fans. Like as much as Arsenal aren't like
Yeah,
the biggest
biggest
club,
fan
like
base and all.
they have a far bigger fan base than like someone like Palace or Leicester or whatever who you don't talk about.
Yeah.
They're just a more like famous club as well that they've like. But I agree, it's just a joke as well. And also, one thing I want to say is that I think mentioning the pandemic, I like even for them to even use the word pandemic in this statement is just it's so tone deaf. Like the amount of people who can't even get jobs, and these are moaning because they don't want to earn a few extra 100 million. Like I understand clubs are struggling, like struggling financially. They're making a few million losses. That in 2 years, when fans are back in the grounds, hopefully it's before that, but in 2 years, I'm pretty sure they'll definitely be back in the grounds.
Yeah.
That like they'll be back to normal. Like they're making a few million in losses now. Like these are like I'm not having this. Oh yeah, our economic model isn't sustainable or successful or whatever. The people we're talking about here are literally multi-billionaires.
Yeah.
The owner of Man City is worth 22 billion, and he's
Mm.
talking about, and like these, he's part of the club's talking about, oh, we don't like basically earn enough money. Like, gee, like honestly, it's shocking. And I think as well, to say the pandemic is an excuse about, and to talk about money in terms of the pandemic, is actually like they're almost using it as an excuse when it's the total opposite, because
Yeah.
it literally financially cripples every other league. And like this has like such a ripple effect that people don't won't even realize for a while if this does happen.
Yeah.
Like this isn't just like, oh yeah, Leicester and Wolves or whatever are going to be harmed by this. Imagine what this does to League Two. It's just a joke. Then
I
and
mean,
another part. Sorry, go
you
on.
just on the pandemic before you move on, like you hear it on Sky Sports News when you watch it. Like there are clubs in like League One, even not even League Two, like League One, League Two, Conference and stuff like that, that are literally on the verge of going bust. Like they're at their very last cent. And then you see these clubs who have millions and millions and millions and billions or whatever they have, and they're talking about their losses, but like yeah, they have like the highest losses, but by percentages, like there's literally clubs out there that are on their knees because there's no supporters in stadiums and they're really, really struggling. You know, clubs that are literally built and owned by fans that have nothing, and these are given out.
I
It's a bit
know
of a it's pay.
it is petty, and as I said, it as much as you're talking about financial for like finances, um, in terms of the pandemic, as I said, that is literally gonna end any of those clubs you said there. For instance, a League One club, a League Two club that are on the verge, like they are gonna go bust if this happens. Like,
Yeah,
um, and then another part they said was the league was about improving the quality and intensity of football. Like as I said, like not to pick on them, but Arsenal needed a 97th minute winner yesterday to draw against Fulham, and they're expected to play Real Madrid away every week. That is like just that alone. That is depressing for an Arsenal fan, or even for me as a Chelsea fan. Like we're doing decent now. Last season, or the season before that, we would have gotten absolutely mauled in a European Super League. Like last season, like you're talking about, like yeah, Chelsea had a decent season, but like players, youth academy players playing against Real Madrid or Barcelona or Bayern Munich, like it would be embarrassing, and like we would literally be coming bottom of that. Like that, just that kind of thing. Like these are meant to be big clubs, but are you really a big club if you're just losing every week? Like regardless of what standards are, you don't
yeah,
even win games. Then another thing they said was in the statement, the final kind of controversial thing was that they critiqued the UEFA Champions League format, because they said it doesn't solve the need to provide higher quality matches. And yeah, I just think that is a bit of a joke because it is literally the highest quality of football. Like,
yeah. I mean, I think. Well, I mean, the majority of people, you know, f- grew up following the Champions League. You know, whether they're older and it was the European Cup, where you know our generation and it's the Champions League, and you'd be ludicrous to say that like that isn't the highest standard of football. Obviously, like there's the World Cup and stuff like that, but that's not necessarily that high of a standard when you compare it
no,
to the
no, so
Champions
Champions
League
League is better than World Cup.
by a mile.
There's a
Like
standard.
when you see who plays in the finals of the World Cup, sometimes you think, you know, like they wouldn't even be in the knockout stage of the Champions League.
Yeah,
And I think to critique that, obviously, like every league and you know competition has its own flaws, but this has way more flaws than the Champions League. Champions League is like a
yeah,
fair level playing ground that you know it doesn't matter whether you're Manchester United or you're Dundalk, you have a chance of getting
yeah.
in, even though you know the chance of Dundalk getting in or Shamrock Rovers and Manchester United are completely different. You know,
But
it
it's not
gives
the point though. The
everyone.
point
But
is like literally,
my point is, it gives
yeah,
everyone a chance because, as you said, the founding 15 clubs of this thing can't get relegated. So they'll always be the top 15 clubs in world
that's the
football. No
thing.
one will ever
And it's only
overtake them.
five interchange.
Yeah,
That's a joke. And I'm gonna move on to the money involved in this. A few numbers that are just like staggering, honestly. So this whole proposal is being backed by the U.S. bank, J.P. Morgan Bank. Um, this is a bank that has $3.3 trillion in total assets as of 2020. Like I know there's other things to take away from that. Like they don't have $3.3 trillion, but I'd say it's not far off that. Like we're talking about, the point I'm making is we're talking about like an outrageous amount of money. I just want to put this in context as well. So the JP Morgan is giving the clubs 3.5 billion to share between the 15 founding clubs, um, as an initial infrastructure grant. It's basically um to basically elude the pandemic pretty much because the clubs have made losses in the pandemic, so they'd be getting whatever, however that divides between 15. It's a lot of money. So just to put it into context, okay, if you're in the Premier League, you get 150 million. If you win the Champions League, you get 110 million. So Man City this year, if they win the Champions League and the Premier League, which is so rare for any club to do, like I think the last club to do that was United 13 years ago, I think. That would be 260 million. This In this format, every club, no matter if they come last and don't win any trophies, will get 300 million, and they can't get relegated. So this guarantees clubs 300 million every season. This league will also guarantee it will generate 4 billion a year through broadcasting rights. So Sky, BT, whatever showing it. Um, yeah, and apparently I'm not sure if this is true, but I saw on Instagram earlier that apparently just for accepting the invite you get 400 million. So on top of all that, you get an extra 400 million. I don't know if that's true, but
Yeah.
I know these things I've read it there are true. It's just like it's hard to comprehend because like it's hard to comprehend 1 million euro. Never mind, like you're talking about 300 billion or 300 million and 3.5 billion just to infrastructure. Like grant. What do you think, money
Yeah, I
wise?
mean, it is that thing where, the same way the rich just keep getting richer as the poor get poorer. Like it is, they're just making sure that they're lining their own pockets. Like you said there, 300 million. Like how often do you see your club getting this mad amount of investment or this mad amount of money, and you never see it actually come out on the pitch? You think, where does that go? Like who got that? And I think it'll be the exact same. You think, oh, 300 million. Let's say your club is in it, just like the way ours are. All the players that my club could get for 300 million, how they could fix their team with 300 million. That's not how it works. It doesn't go, 300 million go straight into transfer. No.
You'd be lucky to see 50 of that go on a
Yeah.
transfer.
Yeah. Like it's literally to line their own pockets. And I just think it's a joke altogether. Like the fact that it's clearly about money. Like as much as they say in their statements, oh, it's about football, it's about this, it's about that. It's not. The fact that the main incentive that I can see is the what you said, 3.5 or 3.4 billion shared between the 15 founding clubs, and then all the extra money that they'd get on top of it. Like I think one thing to take into consideration with the English clubs. Okay, I don't know anything about any of the other clubs, but not a single English owner out of the English clubs have signed up.
Yeah.
There's 4 American in United, Liverpool,
Liverpool, Arsenal.
Tottenham, and Arsenal. Then there's Russia for Chelsea, and then there's the Middle Eastern owners for Man City. And it just shows, like, if you look at any American sport, it's all about money. You see, like, if you watch like NFL or anything like that, or NBA, you see all the players are on these mad wages, mad Nike sponsorships, all this stuff. They play in leagues where you can't get relegated in their leagues. Like if you watch the MLS, it's fixed 20 teams or 24 teams or whatever it is. There's no relegation. And it just shows like this is what this is how these people actually view football. Not the traditional
Yeah,
way.
like I think as well. Like, to be fair, I know he's not a majority shareholder, but Daniel Levy as well. He off Spurs. He still is an English person who's I think he's so money driven though. Like that's clear to see over the last few years.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I just think it's a bit of a joke. Like I wouldn't say it's all like just all American people's fault. It's just like
No,
they
I'm
just
not saying that.
yeah, no, it just happens to be American people. I think it's just the fact that like it's all these owners coming in, like regardless of where they're from, like whether it's Abramovich or Sheikh Mansour or whoever.
Yeah.
I just think it's literally it's just a joke, honestly. Like the way it's allowed to, this has been allowed to happen, and this has been coming for 20 years probably.
My
Um,
point was mostly that none of them are English.
yeah, yeah, they don't
That
understand the traditions
so
of
that
football.
should
Like, they're not
yeah
they're not football people.
yeah. Like if you look at the football
Yeah,
pyramid, it's basically a perfect format that no matter where you are on the pyramid, you have a chance of getting to the top.
yeah, yeah,
No
exactly,
matter how far you are on it, there's like it doesn't mean that you're ever going to get there, but you always have a chance. There's a
exactly. Like
possible
as you
route to the
said
top.
before, like with Dundalk, for instance, just taking an Irish club, they can win the Champions League. Like they can win the Champions League. Then probably never in our lifetimes gonna do it, but
Yeah,
they can win it. Like what's the
yeah,
point in playing if you know? Yeah, like they know, like the player. I'm not sure the players aren't going out every day thinking I can't wait to win the Champions League, but
yeah,
they're thinking we if we win every game, we can win the Champions League, win all
yeah.
the
Like
qualifiers, win all the games.
I mean, yeah, it's never going to happen, but there's a possibility. Like
It
the
can happen.
infrastructure, the current infrastructure and the current format of
Allows it.
how UEFA have set up the Champions League means that they have a possible chance, whether they do it or not. They're given a possible chance to win it.
Yeah. Um, I'm gonna move on now to the effect that has on football, kind of more on the pitch stuff, because what we've kind of talked about is a lot of politics in the first 20 minutes. So I'm gonna talk about more on the pitch stuff. So first of all, I just think this announcement at this time brings this season into just total disrepute. Three out of the four Champions League semi-finalists are in this proposal. Like it's embarrassing. Like it's actually embarrassing for Chelsea to win the Champions League, or sorry, not PSG. They're the only ones not in it. Man City, Real Madrid, or Chelsea. If them three win, if one of them three wins the Champions League, it is embarrassing for UEFA to actually be giving that club a trophy, and then they're going to be gone. They're going to be leaving they're abandoning it in 3 months. And then what about, for instance, the FA Cup final? Like I was saying this, I was thinking this like to myself last night. Like if Chelsea are part of the Super League and they're actually going ahead with it, just give Leicester the trophy. Don't even play the match. And I'm saying it as a Chelsea fan, they don't deserve that trophy. If they're going to be ditching the whole football pyramid like that, give Leicester the trophy. Give Leicester the Premier League as well. Don't let Man City or any of these teams be in it.
Yeah,
I think that, and I'm a Chelsea fan who obviously wants my team to win it. But
yeah,
yeah, give Leicester the FA Cup. Also, just in terms of like the ethics of it from a football point of view, it's a closed shop. Like there's no relegation or promotion. Like that is literally, it's an attack on the basis on which sport is built. Like you lose, there's consequences. You win, there's consequences.
yeah,
Um, like at the end of the day, then they're just creating a total monopoly. No
yeah.
one can get in or out except for those five teams, which whatever. Who cares if we lose? At the end of the day, there's no consequences. Like if Spurs or Arsenal or Chelsea or whoever, if they lose every game in a season, they're not getting relegated. Like who cares? And at the end of the day, that's not what football is. There's
Yeah.
literally no point. Like you
You,
almost think, what's the point in even signing players? At the end of the day, we're still getting 300 million every season.
yeah, I think one thing that obviously hasn't been announced, this is just completely something that I think could happen if this goes ahead. Um, and that's, you know, like as you said, like it's not football. Like whatever sport they're kicking a ball into a net, but it's not the sport that we
Yeah,
know, and it just wouldn't shock me if it's like, oh, Liverpool's home games. Oh, the Liverpool fans that have been going to Anfield for years and years and years and years, they don't want to see this. So you know what? We're going to play our home matches in Dubai. The people in
yeah.
Dubai want to see it, and it
I
just
was
wouldn't shock me.
I was saying that to you as well last night. This is the start as well of just like the total commercialization of football. Like
Yeah,
it's getting to the point now where, as you said, they might just say, just in terms of a broader reach and more exposure to other markets, they might just say all this weekend's games are in Qatar.
yeah,
Next weekend's games, we're playing Chelsea versus Barcelona in Perth. Next
yeah,
week is Chelsea versus Juventus in Shanghai. The week after is Chelsea versus Bayern Munich in California. Like that is gonna get more publicity, and you're reaching new markets all the time, and that creates another monopoly. in terms of, okay, so if Chelsea are playing in Shanghai 3 or 4 times a season, you're going to get a big base of supporters in Shanghai. Same with Perth, etc. Like, it's just creates more money. There's more people buying the jerseys. There's more people, like, it's just it's a never ending cycle. But anyway, just for to move on from that, we can talk about that more about that later. What does this mean for players, like the top players outside of these six clubs? Just for instance, England, as we're more relatable with them. Zaha, Grealish, Madison, name any other kind of top player outside the top six.
Barnes.
Yeah, whatever. They're gonna move to these top teams, and this just ruins the other teams because at the end of the day, as much as like Jack Grealish is in love with Villa, he's a Birmingham lad, like a big Villa fan. He is literally gonna be like there's gonna be no money in clubs like Villa if this happens, and he'll have, even though he loves Villa, he'll have no choice but to move.
Yeah, yeah. Like, what's the point? Like, there's no point in playing in a league that has no support and following anymore. Now, I'm not saying that the support and following of the Premier League is solely on the big six, but I mean, like, they do have the biggest following internationally, and they do bring in the most money for the club or for
The
the
revenue
league.
generated.
Yeah. But like, and obviously, if there is going to be a Super League, that's where eyes are going to be, focused on mostly. The only thing that I could see keeping small, like big players at small clubs, not that Villa and Leicester
Yeah,
are small
yeah,
clubs, but they're not. What I'm trying to say is they're not in this European Super League.
yeah.
Is if there is a thing where it's like you're not allowed to play international football, you're not allowed to represent your country, you're not going to be playing in, those types of competitions. Whether that would sway players or not, I don't know. I know it would, definitely, with a few of them, you know. But that would be the only thing that could keep them there. Other than that, it's just taking all the good players for yourselves and not caring about anyone else. No matter how the statement is written, don't let it confuse you. Like, it's complete rubbish.
Exactly. And as I said earlier, like, and yeah, think of players like that, like any good Leon players are moving to PSG if PSG are in this. Any good Sevilla players are moving to Real Madrid or Barcelona to be in this league. Like, there's no Sevilla, there's no Valencia, there's no whatever league you want to pick out. Like, there's no Napoli, Sampdoria, any player like that. They are just moving to one of those three Italian clubs. And I know you could say, oh, that's what happens anyway. Yeah, it is to some extent. But like, this is going to be a joke. Like, where like Man City's squad will be like not probably not even a good squad in if this league happens in 5 years' time. If this league starts in August, Man City's like squad will be like every team's in that league squad. They're gonna have three world class players in every position, like, because everyone wants to play in that league. Like, and there's gonna be so many games. They'll need the squads. It's just gonna be an absolute like monopoly, as I said. Another point I want to kind of raise is like United versus Barcelona or Juventus versus Real Madrid, like every week, like happening every week. Like, it sounds great, but I just reckon that would get boring. Like, the big attraction with these, and I know that sounds stupid, but the big attraction with these games, like Real Madrid versus Chelsea in the semi-finals, PSG versus Man City in the semi-finals, they're games we don't see every week. That's why they're entertaining and why we are buzzing for them. Like, when the draw comes out, you write the date down. So I can't wait for that game. Like, where's the allure towards it? Liverpool versus Juventus. If there's like, it's every week, like, what's the difference? And as I said earlier, if you're Spurs or Arsenal, like, not to pick on them, but they're just the two teams that I'm thinking of who've been bad this season. They are losing every week in this if they're anything like what they are like last season. Like, Juventus, AC Milan, Inter Milan, Barcelona, Real Madrid, they are hammering Arsenal like every week. Where's the fun in that if you're an Arsenal fan? You don't want to see your team lose every week. As I said, Chelsea last season, we would have been getting hammered every week as well.
Liverpool this season.
Yeah, yeah. Um. Also, like, as I said, this kind of kills off the Premier League if this happens. Um. So as I said, like the bigger sides like Leicester, Wolves, Villa, whatever, Everton, they'll be obviously damaged massively by this. But imagine what this does to League Two. Like, I was thinking about it last night. Like the pyramid of football, just taking England into account, but this is the same in every country. The pyramid is destroyed. This closed shop just means that the money is recycled among these top 15 sides. There's no kind of like regurgitation of the cash down the lower levels of football. The top six money, as much as you don't think, as much as you think Man City is massively disconnected to Sunday League, but that top six money and that broadcast revenue, that does filter down to grassroots football. If the money doesn't filter down, which it won't in this situation, this leads to just a total lack of facilities for young players. And then this kind of has a roll on effect then where it's like, well, if there's no money being put into grassroots football, are the players produced so that in 15 years' time these clubs will have great players to play? Like imagine, for instance, like with France. Obviously, France is unbelievable. Um, like youth player set up in Clairefontaine. Like for instance, if PSG and the top French sides were to join this, does that happen then? Like, does that not happen? Like, it's a cycle that they probably haven't even thought of yet because they just want money now. But in 15 years, like at the end of the day, as I said, if there's no relegation, where's the motive for clubs who are never really going to be good enough to win this to get better? Like, if Arsenal are putting out like 11 Sunday League players every week, then they're still getting 300 million at the end of every season.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to kind of look closer to home to see what it will be like, because obviously our format here in Ireland isn't isn't as good as the UK, and it's quite obvious when you look at the national sides. Um, you can see here like there's not much money that goes into grassroots from the FAI because they're just not making enough money in the domestic leagues. Like no one watches it. No one, not no one watches it. Obviously, people watch it. It doesn't have a very big fan base.
Yeah,
Um, and it doesn't. I don't. I think they still have some games on RTE, but I know they have their own streaming website now
yeah, like
because
it's
I
really well
think
supported by the people who watch it,
yeah,
but like the
but
majority of people don't watch it is the point they're making.
yeah, and it's quite clear when you look at the facilities that teams have here. A lot of clubs that have good facilities here is either based on their own fundraising um or like if they have big sponsorships or if they're just a rich club, like they've sold young players to England or whatever, and that's funded their facilities. Other than that, there's no real funding from obviously there's a small bit of funding from the FAI and stuff like that, but it's not the way it is in England. There's not these huge new development parks like in London. Can't think of the name of it, where there's like 15 pitches and they're all kept really well, and like all the local sides can play on them every week. Like that's not how it happens here. You know, your
Mm.
team plays in the park if it doesn't have its own facilities, and that's kept up by the council. And it's very like I remember there was one team that I played for, and like there'd be like junkies on the side of the pitch, you know,
Yeah,
and they'd be like drinking cans or whatever. And you know, maybe that happens in England, but when I was over in England playing against teams, like I was always like even when they were just local teams that you'd be playing like a training match against, I was always in awe of the facilities because they were always so much better. Um, and that's because even though people don't realize it, the revenue generated by the Premier League filters down their pyramid and into grassroots, local grassroots and stuff like that. They get funding. They don't have to do the work that clubs here have to do. And I think here they're always striving to be like England and to set up something like that, and it's just never worked.
yeah,
And this league would be basically just coming in like a wrecking ball and taking away the hard work that was put to form a good football pyramid like the way they have.
yeah, exactly. No, definitely. I completely agree. It would just totally ruin any like kind of youth structure set up in any country. Yeah, just to move on then just to talk about the commercialization of football. Like fans are basically just commodities that are being sold. Like at the end of the day, our eyes are being sold to these like top investors, which is the way it always is in anything. But
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, the TV rights is so big. Like, so much fans watch football. That makes the TV deals that Sky give inflated. Um, this gives more money to the Premier League, which gives to the clubs, which gives to the players, and that's why the players earn so much money. It's not because at the end of the day, if no one watched football, where is the money coming from? The money's coming from people who like us who pay €30 for Sky, €30 for BT, and that's €60 a month, and that's a lot of money when you multiply it by millions. Um, so yeah, like this is just like that on another level because I can't even imagine the money. Like, I wouldn't even be surprised to see them set up their own streaming service like Sky are just not even involved in this because, like, I don't know, Sky might not support it or whatever.
Yeah.
But as I said, as we were talking about yesterday, this kind of commercialization of football, it began a long time ago. Like like we were texting yesterday, you made the example of Liverpool used to make a jersey every 2 years.
Every
And
club used to make a jersey every two
yeah,
years,
yeah, yeah,
and it wasn't that long ago.
yeah. Like, what are we talking about, 15 years maybe? Then,
Yeah, I feel like it was, the jersey that I remember now. I could be wrong, and this could have been a 1 year jersey, but the jersey that I remember is the Adidas jersey with the colours that Liverpool played AC Milan in the final in Athens in 2007 with. But they had that jersey the year before, if my
yeah,
memory serves me right.
yeah, yeah, no,
And
that did
after
used to
that, it was
happen.
a big turning point. Um, as well as that, in back even then, like they did have third jerseys if they play only if they played in Europe. You had a third jersey, as like if your colours clashed with a team when you're like playing in Europe or whatever, and like then you look at now like Liverpool and Chelsea are just two examples. Are both clubs with Nike, and they have their home jersey, they have their away jersey, they have their third jersey, and then they have this new jersey that just came out that was an Air Max jersey or whatever it was called, and they'll never wear them jerseys in matches. Like it will never happen.
Yeah,
They're completely useless jerseys. Like you know, they're horrible for starters, but like they're just useless. Like there's no point in having this jersey. And then you look at PSG, which are another team at Nike, and they have their home jersey, their away jersey, their third jersey, and then they have like all these other jerseys that are Jordan brand jerseys, which instead of having a Nike logo, have the Jordan Jumpman on it. And like if you're a PSG supporter and you want all the jerseys, and you're one of those people that doesn't want to buy fake jerseys or whatever, you're paying like 500 quid for all your jerseys because they're like 90 quid a pop. If you want the replica one, if you want like the actual or what, I don't even, I've never bought one of these jerseys off Nike where they're like 120 quid compared to like the 85 quid one or whatever it is. Um, I don't know what's the difference. They like Vapor Fit jersey, whatever it's called.
yeah,
Um, like you're paying mad amount of money because they have like 6 jerseys now, and then it's not just Nike because Borussia Dortmund are the same. They have about 7 jerseys as well that Puma made,
yeah,
and they do that every season. And look, it's just exploiting the fans. And I remember you're probably the same when you were a kid. I wanted every Liverpool kit, like every single one. I'd get like when birthday and Christmas, I'd get every single one of them. I'd get them in short sleeves and I'd get them in long sleeves. I had about 10 jerseys every year.
yeah.
But and like obviously at the time, like they obviously still cost money as well. But I feel like now jerseys are getting more and more expensive, and there's becoming more and more of them. And if you're a kid and you want every jersey, let's say you're 10, so yeah, you're into the adult jerseys, or you don't get the shorts and socks as well, is what I'm trying to say. You don't get the full kit, you have to buy a jersey. And at Christmas you want every Liverpool jersey, like that's setting you back like 350, 400 quid, like just to get a few jerseys.
Exactly. Like, and as I was saying, as you were saying there, sorry, um, like, yeah, PSG has their Jordan like collection. Like, when would you ever hear of a football collection? It's like turning into like seasonal fashion, like as if it's like Gucci or Louis Vuitton, where it's like, oh, like this is our spring summer kit, and like this is our winter autumn winter kit. Like, that, like it's just like it's actually like a fashion brand. Like, for instance, Arsenal. Like, Arsenal has like comes out every week with like a different jersey or a different jacket or whatever. Like it's literally like a fashion brand. It's not even like football. Like it is a football team at the end of the day. But anyway, the overall point we're trying to make with this is just saying that football has been so commercialized. And I think that was the beginning of it when they started doing like kind of kits every season. And then it was like, okay, well then now we'll do a third kit every year. And now it's like, oh well then we'll do make random kits like Air Max kits and just these random things. It just shows that football is actually just so commercialized, and it's getting that was the like beginning point to what it is now. Like that is like that on a tiny commercialization on a tiny scale. Okay, we'll do a jersey every year now because we can make more money. Now it's like fast forward 15 years, it's like we don't even need the Premier League anymore. Like that's crazy. Like
Yeah,
we just gonna make our own league because we're so much better than any other team.
yeah,
Another thing that shows kind of the commercialization in football is that like when the World Cup was voted in Qatar, and like no one said anything. Like everyone knew when it was voted. Like the summers in Qatar are like 50 plus degrees. It's
yeah.
not like that. Like it's not like okay. Like for instance, the World Cup in South Africa, that was really hot and like difficult to play, and a lot of people said. But like come on, like that's not like it wasn't 50 plus degrees. Like you might be talking about 25, 30 degrees, which is still really difficult to play at a top like top level sport in. But like everyone knew the World Cup was gonna have to be played in a different time of the year, and like I just don't want the World Cup. And it's happened now. It's too late. Like you see all these countries now coming out, supporting Qatar rights, or sorry, the rights of workers in Qatar, because something like 6,000 workers have died. And you see Germany and Norway coming out in recent international friendlies. You're doing it less than a year and a half. Like it's less than 18 months till the tournament starts. Where were you 10 years ago when it was voted in or whatever it was, 2012 or something?
Mm.
Like it's just such a joke. Like no one wants a World Cup. Like I don't want to watch a World Cup in November when it's dark at 4 o'clock. I want to watch a World Cup in the summer when it's
Yeah.
bright outside and it's you're meeting up with your friend. That's what the World Cup is all about. It's not about winter, but that's just an example of how the mass amount of money that they were obviously bribed with, like definitely in Qatar, it just got them this World Cup, and it just showed that's just an example of how money at the end of the day wins out. Because I can't remember who else was fighting for the 2022 World Cup, but I'm sure there was some good countries there who would have been able to host the World Cup in the summer and had a great time. Like even Russia, Brazil, South Africa, like they were all great World Cups. But this one, I don't know, I just don't like it in the summer.
I feel
And then as
like
we were saying,
sorry,
sorry, go on.
I feel like the other countries that were going for were Mexico and Morocco. I'm
Yeah, they would have been great
almost
countries.
certain it was Morocco was one of them. Mexico, I'm not sure on, but um, like as you said, like no one wants to see a World Cup in the winter, and I said it the other day to you, like you'd never see like EP just all of a sudden be in February, like
Yeah,
like
I know. It's a
if it was an
tradition, like.
yeah, if it was a music festival, which I've been lucky enough to go to two of the Euros, and well, the last two of the Euros, and it's like a festival. There's these big fan parks everywhere. Like people are dressed up, like people obviously like work and are dressed up in like mascot, and stuff like that. And before the game, outside the stadium, there's more stuff. There's people doing, keep you uppy tricks with football now, and it's like a festival. That's the best way I can explain it. That these competitions are like festivals, and I could be wrong, but I've never heard of a festival in the winter. And I know it's going to be extremely hot in Qatar in the winter, but that's not
Yeah.
my point. Where I'm not going to be in Qatar, I'm going to be in my house. And the difference between it being, and I'm using myself here as a bit of an analogy, but I'm talking about every other football fan that doesn't get to go to Qatar. You're going to be in your house. It's not going to be, oh, let's go to beer gardens. I know a lot of, or a few pubs around Dublin set up the big screen out in their beer garden and people go, and I'm sure it's the same in the UK and
It's gonna be
elsewhere.
raining and it's gonna be like
Yeah.
3 degrees.
It's going to be absolutely Baltic outside. Like no one's going to want to go outside. Everyone's going to be watching it in their own house. It's not going to be the same watching football, but like as a fan, it's not the same watching football by yourself. Most people have experienced it this year of sitting in their house and watching the football by themselves, and it's just not the same experience as just not this is people that aren't even in stadiums. It's not the same experience as just watching it with your mates, whether you're watching it at home with your mates or you're watching it in a pub with your mates. It's a completely different experience. when you're sitting there by yourself watching it.
Yeah, and as I said, like with the World Cup in Qatar, it doesn't even take into account of the fact that I was saying this to you the other day. The World Cup starts, I think it's November the 11th or something, until December 18th, I think. Let's just take it as it's those dates.
Yeah.
You need 3 weeks minimum in a training camp. So let's just say the start of October, this season needs to be stopped. December 18th, the World Cup ends. That's the final. I know that for a fact. Like, you need to give players at least 2 weeks off, at least. So you're talking about then until the start of January. So from the start of October to the start of January, you're just cutting the season off. That's like another COVID level break, except you're actually playing the whole way through it, pretty much. The season needs to start in July 2022, and it needs to end in pretty much July 2023. Like, that is an absolute disaster for the season beforehand
Yeah.
and the season after. And as much as we want all the World Cup, like, it's great, there's going to be so many injuries. Like, if we think this season is bad, that season is going to be a disaster because, yeah, we had a 3 month break because of COVID, and like there's obviously COVID cases among the players, which harms everything. But yeah, like the injuries they're going to get, like, you're playing through that 3 month break, like that would be a catastrophe.
Yeah, and just another thing before you move on, with it being in the winter, like I don't know if you remember, I'm thinking of kids in school as well. When World Cups would be on, me and you went to school together in primary school. Like the group stage or like half of the group stage, we'd still be in school, and
Yeah,
you'd still be talking about it, on the yard or whatever. But then you got to watch like the rest of it. School gone, even in secondary school, like me and you were lucky enough to do our leaving cert while the last World Cup was on. And, yeah, it was on half the group stage or something like that was on when we were when we were
yeah,
still, doing our exams. But like you got the rest of it once you finished, you knew like this is it. I get to watch football now. Every day if I go outside, I get to watch football. You can go out and watch football in the pub or whatever. Like
yeah.
it was just like where if you're in school, as you said, the 18th of December, like school still is on the 18th of December. Like,
I
I know it'll
know,
probably
I
be a
know.
Saturday, but I mean, like if you're in school, your Christmas exams are coming up, or your mocks are in like a month, or if you're in college, like you could still have your college exams for the
Exactly.
18th of December. So it doesn't suit anyone in any aspect of life. Like,
I know as well. That's, yeah, as we're saying, like the World Cup, we're just talking about it in terms of the commercialization of football, and
yeah,
how that was just an example of how like that World Cup should just never have gone to Qatar. It was obviously fixed as well. Like, I'm pretty sure Platini is in. He got arrested anyway. I don't know if he's in prison, but obviously dodgy stuff going on there. But anyway, as I was saying earlier, yeah, just back to the Super League. It's only a matter of time until, as I said, this week's games are in Dubai. Next week is in Perth. Next week is in Shanghai. Next week is in LA. It's gonna turn into like a Harlem Globetrotters thing, where it's like Liverpool don't even play in Anfield. Barcelona don't even play in the new camp. They
yeah,
play in Australia, China, America, like just to enhance the kind of global reputation of these teams. Obviously, like that just reaches more markets, more TV viewers, more global appeal. But no, it's just it's only a matter of time before that's the next step, I think. Um, I just think it's a bit of a mess. But anyway, overall, the kind of question to ask is, will it actually happen? So UEFA have said that players who play in this will be banned from playing in the Champions League, but I don't think they care too much about that because this is the new Champions League, if that's what happens. FIFA have said, which is maybe a bit more pressing, they won't allow players in this to play in the World Cup, um, or for international sides, full stop. The Premier League have obviously said that anyone who participates in this is going to be banned from the Premier League as well. I'm not certain if this is true, but apparently I heard this morning you only need 6 clubs to vote against the club, to vote for a club to be banned from the league. So if if Man United go into the Super League, if Leicester, Wolves, Crystal Palace, Sheffield, whoever, 6 clubs
yeah,
vote for them to be banned, they'll be banned. You don't need a majority or anything. You only need six. I think that's interesting. I'm not sure if that's definitely true, but it's difficult to say. Like it's so recent. Like this announcement as we're recording this only came out yesterday.
Yeah.
What do you make of it? If you had to put your house on it, is this actually going to go through?
I don't know. I definitely don't want it to.
Neither
I
do
could
I.
answer that fully. I don't know because obviously, um, if we're looking at it from a player point of view, they're not going to want it to go through. You know, like I think the attraction. You know, obviously there's a few English players that play for these top clubs. Quite a few actually. But even the attraction from the foreign players going to the Premier League, like it's because the Premier League they've known it from a young age. You know, whether they've supported it as thoroughly as you do in England and Ireland. That's that is kind of irrelevant to be honest. It's they know it. They probably support English clubs. Like I know Micah Richards said the other day on Sky that when he played with Mo Salah at Roma, that he was obsessed with Liverpool, checked their scores every day or every time they played. And that's the way it is all around the world. Like he's from Egypt. If you're from the USA, it's the exact same. If you're from China, the exact same. Wherever you are in the world, there's a lot of supporters for the English leagues, and that's why you see them go on pre-season tours to mad countries. Um, and I think for if you're a player playing in the league, you don't want it to happen. So maybe that'll be a deciding factor. But I think for if it is solely based on the owner's choice, I think it goes ahead. I think they've already chosen. I think the admin in clubs have already chosen what they want. Um, and I think they will just undercut the players. And I think it could ruin these clubs. I know for me as a fan, it's the first time I can say in I don't know 15 years of supporting Liverpool that I'm truly embarrassed to be a Liverpool fan. That my team have signed up for this. Um, I always felt as a Liverpool fan that the club was based around supporters, and they've obviously done quite a lot of work recently for the surrounding area of Liverpool. But I mean, just on the support aspect, like I always felt going there that it was a club for the supporters, for the fans. I thought it was just always based around that, and clearly now the direction of the club is definitely not the same, and it is embarrassing. I'm sure you feel the same way for Chelsea. It's it's the first time I can put my hand up and say, like, no matter they've obviously had bad years in the Premier League, bad games, losing to Villa this year never embarrassed me to say that I was a Liverpool fan. Like, I'd still happily wear the jersey, would take any abuse from any of my mates, didn't matter. But this is just a step too far for me. Like, I'm really, really embarrassed, and I'm sure every other fan is.
Yeah, I agree with you because especially like as you said there, like just taking Liverpool as an example. Liverpool is kind of like that club that's been going around. Obviously, United is the same. They're the two biggest clubs in terms of history. Um, Liverpool, for just taking Liverpool because they're your club, like they've such a rich history going back so far, like back to the 70s, like the 80s and 90s, and like even well before that as well. Like they're always kind of seen as that like the working class club where like they support the local like the local community, and that it's like no matter what you're doing in Liverpool, like if you live in Liverpool, like you kind of make your money Monday to Friday, and then like you can't wait for Saturday or Sunday. You go out to the match like to Anfield, and it just feels like a total attack on the core of that, like the working class side to English football. Obviously, every club's the same, but we're just talking about the English ones now, and Liverpool. It just feels like that's just like the core of Liverpool. Is like for you, and same with me for Chelsea. It's just gone. Like there's no like we don't care about people from Liverpool or people from Dublin who would get the ferry over to watch us, or people from like Australia who fly 24 hours to watch us. Like we actually don't care about any of them. We don't care about the Premier League. We don't care about anything. Um, and yeah, as you said, like it's the kind of thing that's been coming for a while now. I just feel embarrassed as well, like as a Chelsea fan. that they've signed up for it. I'm not as surprised with Chelsea and like Man City, just the fact that they're kind of newer clubs. They are massively owned. Like, they don't have any real connection to like the Premier League as much as obviously they do. Like, and Chelsea and City are huge clubs, but just like Liverpool and United, the fact that they've so much history, I didn't think they'd do it. Like, just it's just shocking. Like, really. But it just shows the people in charge now. And I was thinking this to myself last night. Like, if you're a fan who buys, as we were talking about earlier, the jerseys, if you're a fan who buys the jerseys, like, you're thinking to yourself, like, if I'm spending 90 quid, I don't want 90 quid going into those pockets, to
Yeah,
those people. I don't want to give them my money.
yeah,
And I want the Chelsea jersey, but it's a principle thing
mm,
where, like, I don't want to actually give money. I don't want to be supporting almost like a regime. I wouldn't even say like a club, a regime that acts like this. It's honestly like it's embarrassing, and it's just shameful for all the clubs. I think like I haven't seen genuinely have not seen one fan on social media, and I've gone through like comments on posts to see what people think. Haven't seen like every United fan, every United ex-player, Liverpool, anyone just thinks it's like embarrassing, really.
yeah. I think even we both went to a Barcelona match together a couple of years ago, and their motto is, obviously it's in Spanish, but it's more
More
than
than a
just a
club.
club. Yeah, more than a club, and they've signed up for this as well, and I'm sure they're diehard fans. Obviously when we went to the match, you can tell like there's loads of people that just are tourists, like the way we were, that
Yeah.
um that aren't necessarily diehard fans, but I mean the people who go to every match, the season ticket holders of every club, the people who support them through thick and thin.
Yeah, that's the same. Like, they're a fan-owned club as well. Like, they're a
Yeah,
club that are like, as you said, like more than a club. Like, it's about the community. It's about like giving like 12-year-olds who don't come from they come from poverty, giving them a chance to be a footballer. Like, that's
yeah,
what it's about. Like, it's not
yeah,
just
and
about money.
it is. It's just showing that, like, you go through the club mottos. Obviously, the two that I know most is the Barcelona one, and then Liverpool, "You'll never walk alone," and it just shows that it's just complete rubbish. Like they don't mean anything anymore. They're irrelevant.
Not anymore.
They're just words now. They're not
Not of
actually.
these
They're not saying
ownership.
anymore. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. So overall, just in a word, do you think this genuinely happens, or do you think it's like a project big picture thing where it's just been so ridiculed that they're just like, oh no, we didn't mean it, and the owners come out and make a nothing statement where it's like, oh well, we were never going ahead with this or whatever. What do you think will genuinely happen? Do you think yes or no does this happen?
Um, no, I don't think it's gonna happen. But one thing that I hope happens, that like I just hope happens, is that if it doesn't happen, that all the clubs that sign up, no matter how big they are banned from the Champions League for more than 1 year.
Yeah.
And that's my club, your club. I think they have to be punished, and punished properly here. People
No,
gave
as I
out,
said, give Leicester the FA Cup.
yeah,
Don't even
give
play that match.
give Leicester the FA Cup, let them have a playoff for the league, put all the teams that signed up in 10th, give them no money for as a reward, you know, take everything from them because they don't deserve it at this moment in time. Like, one thing that we haven't talked about is that um, Ed Woodward, that's his name, isn't it? The United
Yeah.
has stepped down from his role in UEFA, as obviously like he was like a spokesperson for United or something like that in UEFA. Um, and just even that, the intent shown to just leave, leave something that's been there for so long, that supported your club because you've come up with a better idea.
Yeah.
It just shows
But
no
we
loyalty. They
everyone
don't
now know
deserve
like
anything.
the Glazers, like they're just a bad ownership. Like they are just bad. Like honestly, nearly every signing on them has just been appalling. Like genuinely appalling. They're
But
clearly like people that don't understand football, and the fact that they went through with this, they clearly have no even tiny conception of what United's heritage is as a football club, the basis on they're built upon, like the values of the club, and the same with all these clubs. They
Yeah,
have
but
no clue. They're just money driven.
it's the same with Liverpool. Like obviously, you said United and Liverpool are kind of the two that you least expect to sign up for something like this because their history and heritage and stuff like that. And like United built um on Matt Busby's words, and Liverpool built on Bill Shankly's words. But these new American owners have just come in and overnight, really, just tampered both the club's history by
Yeah.
showing that they don't care really. And I think it's obvious by both owners, with really Liverpool's lack of investment and the Glazers just showing they don't really care about United, and the same with Liverpool. And obviously you said Chelsea and City are slightly different, and they are because they have less, they have obviously quite a lot of modern history, but they don't have a lot of history that date far back like the way
Yeah,
the likes of United and Liverpool do, and even like
like
Arsenal and stuff like that.
especially like a team like Spurs. I'm not surprised they went into it because like not in like a bad way. Like Spurs are a good club, but they've never won a Premier League title or they've never won a Champions League.
Yeah,
What are they missing out on? They're not going to win it soon either. So
yeah, they're punching above their
Arsenal,
weight. They're lucky to be even in the
yeah,
picture.
they've got this massive stadium. They need that paid off as well. They're so in debt over that. They
Yeah,
like I'm surprised they even spent any money last summer. Uh, like Chelsea is kind of different because they've actually won a Champions League.
yeah.
City have never won a Champions League. They could easily do it this year if it goes ahead.
But I mean,
Uh,
like
but I
in
was
recent,
just shocked.
sorry, in recent years, it's all been around. Can Pep win the Champions League for City? What's the point if they're just going to leave? Like,
I know.
what's like that's irrelevant now. Like Pep, doesn't matter if they win it, they do. It doesn't matter if they get knocked out in the next round. Like, just they're trying to set up their own Champions League. What's the
Yeah,
point?
exactly,
And if
exactly.
if it's not backed, which it's not by UEFA and FIFA, who are like the two governing bodies in football, in European football, sure. Is it even football? Like, are they just going to do it their own way? Can all the matches just be rigged? Is there going to be rules? Is there going to be
Yeah,
offside? Like, who
yeah,
cares? Like, they can just pick the ball up in the middle of the pitch and throw it into the net, surely. Like,
yeah. It's at the end of the day, it's just in every possible sense, it's an attack on like the core values of the game, of these clubs, of everything.
yeah. And
So
just,
I just think it's a disgrace.
yeah, one thing that I will say as well is like, any football fan, well, majority of football fans support their club or the sport from a young age, whether they played it or they just watched it and supported it. And, a lot of people, including me and you, have an emotional attachment to their club and the sport. And both of our clubs have signed up for this. And, you look online on YouTube, there's already stuff people put up, fans putting stuff up. They also have an emotional attachment to the sport and their club. And you can tell, like, everyone is embarrassed and angry and quite obviously emotional about the fact that people come in with money who don't care and try and ruin their club and the sport, and it is actually hard to watch as a fan that things are getting taken away.
Yeah, and just one last thing to add as well. That do you remember when Josep Bartomeu, the controversial Barcelona president, left in January? His dying words were, "I've just signed up Barcelona up to a European Super League," and everyone was like, "What are you talking about?" Like everyone was
Yeah,
like, "That just doesn't exist. Like, how did they sign up to a league that doesn't exist?" Well, he wasn't
yeah,
obviously lying.
yeah,
3 months later, and here we are. European Super League's been set up, and Barcelona are definitely in that. But yeah, no. Overall, I don't. I generally maybe it's more hope than genuine. Well, genuinely what I think, but I don't think it is going to happen. I think the reaction has just been so bad
yeah,
from the fans, who at the end of the day are the people that are the reason the money is so big in these scenarios. I just think that it's not going to be backed. Clubs won't risk not being part of the Premier League. It would just destroy everything. But I do think this, like as I said earlier, when it comes to like buying spending €90 on a jersey, I just don't want this to be forgotten. Like I don't want in 3 or 4 days' time a big statement saying from each club going, oh, from Chelsea and United and City and everything, or Liverpool, oh, it wasn't really our plans. It wasn't something we'd considered that well, or just jargon, just a load of rubbish.
Yeah,
I don't want in 3 months' time, in the middle of July when the season's over and everything's done, I don't want people to forget this. Like, people should remember this stuff. And like Project Big Picture was the first attempt at just an absolute grab by the top clubs. That was England only.
yeah,
But man, the main thing, the takeaway message is, regardless whether this happens or not, if it doesn't happen, don't forget that this was a serious proposal from clubs like this who just don't care about anything other than money.
yeah, yeah. It can't be forgotten and it can't be forgiven. As
Exactly. And
you know,
I still think genuinely, as much as I'd love to see it, Chelsea win it, I just think the fact that Chelsea even signed up for this, just don't let them have the FA Cup. Like, they don't deserve it.
yeah, yeah, agreed.
Anyway, will we leave it at that?
Yeah, I think we've covered
Was it?
every basis.
Yeah. Anyway, um, obviously we're making this at 11 o'clock in the morning on Monday, the 19th of April. So by the time this comes out, I don't know, this could all be blown over for
Yeah,
all we know. But
could have all
anyway,
changed.
that's that. We've just worked off the information we have at the current time. Anyway, thanks for listening. Couch Pundits Podcast is our Instagram and our TikTok, and give us a follow. Okay, so thanks very much. Bye.
Cheers.